Today on the Matt Walsh Show, WNBA players have invented what may be the most contrived and fraudulent racism scandal since Bubba Wallace's garage. We'll discuss. Also, Hurricane Helene devastates Western North Carolina, yet the media seems strangely disinterested. And Kamala Harris has been running around claiming that high-income earners need to pay their fair share. What the hell is fair, and how can you make things more fair by forcing the people who already pay for almost everything to pay even more? And an article in Newsweek asks a profound and puzzling question. Why are men attracted to beautiful women? We'll take on that head-scratcher and much more today on The Matt Walsh Show. Join Daily Wire Plus for extensive coverage of the 2024 election season, including tomorrow night's VP debate with our exclusive pre- and post-backstage show. With Daily Wire Plus, you get daily, uncensored, ad-free shows from the most trusted names in conservative media. Stay informed with the facts that mainstream media won't share. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe to become a member today. Let's talk about something that's been on my mind lately. That is the war on masculinity. It seems like everywhere you turn, society is trying to feminize men, weaken us, make us soft. We're bombarded with estrogenic chemicals from plastics, junk food, and sedentary lifestyles. The mainstream media loves to demonize normal, heterosexual, masculine men by calling them toxic. And it's not just talk. Testosterone levels have been declining for decades. Did you know that there was a 17% drop among 60-year-olds in 2004 compared to 1987? That's right. In less than 20 years, we lost nearly a fifth of our manhood. But I'm here to tell you that there's a way to fight back. Enter Black Forest Turkesterone with Tonkat Ali. This isn't just another supplement. It's what you might call a feminization killer. It combines two of the most potent natural testosterone boosters out there. Now, I'm not usually one for fancy herbs or new age remedies, but this stuff, well, it's got some serious potential. Turkesterone is a natural anabolic compound that supports muscle growth and improves endurance. Tonkat Ali sounds like a boxer, but actually it's a natural herb that's been used for ages to increase testosterone and reduce stress levels, back when men were actually men. This supplement is designed to boost your testosterone to exorbitant levels. It's exactly what we need to push back against an environment that's constantly trying to feminize, control, and weaken you. So if you want to take control of your health and your life, hurry and take advantage of this amazing 48-hour promo. Head to blackforest.com now. Use code Walsh for a special buy two, get one free offer. That's blackforest.com, code Walsh, blackforest.com, code Walsh. There are a lot of stories out there about lottery winners who go on to destroy their lives. Something like 70% of them supposedly go bankrupt within a few years. It's not hard to see how that would happen. When you give a lot of money and attention to a person who didn't earn any of it, that person doesn't suddenly change overnight. Instead, more often than not, all of their worst character traits are amplified 10 times over. And in many cases, that leads to a very public and humiliating collapse. This is a principle that doesn't just apply to individuals, it turns out. It applies to organizations too. Unearned fame and fortune are far more destructive than they might appear. And right now, there's no organization on the planet that proves this point more than the WNBA. The league just posted its highest average game viewership in 24 years. They're bringing in massive new sponsorships, at least by the league standard. They're selling out arenas, which used to be unheard of for the WNBA. And this should be a dream come true for everybody involved in the WNBA, from the executives to the players to the reporters who, for their sins in a past life, have been cursed with the job of covering a women's basketball league. Everyone should be overjoyed. But there's a big problem. All of this success, every bit of it, is due to the presence of one player in the league, and that is a generational talent named Caitlin Clark, who, of course, you've heard of, and still probably the only WNBA player whose name you know. She's the reason the WNBA just won the lottery. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody cares about any of these players or the league. With her, most people still don't care, but a lot more people care than did before, and everybody knows that, right? Therefore, everyone in the league, other than Caitlin Clark, is doing exactly what so many lottery winners do. They're allowing all of their worst personality traits to surface because they just can't help themselves. Several months ago, I covered the many cheap shots that Clark has had to deal with on the court. Some of these cheap shots look a lot like criminal assault, but of course they aren't prosecuted. Also talked about the many champions of diversity in the media who are strangely very unhappy about the diversity that Clark has brought to the WNBA, a league that is mostly made up of black players. There's been a lot of resentment in this league lately, in particular since the season began. And the thing about resentment, as we all know, is that it tends to fester over time. It gets worse and worse. That's exactly what we're seeing now, now that the season is winding down, the playoffs are underway. Over the past week or two, race hysteria in the WNBA has somehow reached yet another inflection point. The league is currently in the midst of what really might be the single most contrived racism scandal, certainly in any professional sport, at least since the fake noose in Bubba Wallace's garage. Specifically, a bunch of WNBA players have come out claiming that they've been victimized by racial slurs and other forms of racist attacks. Like, a lot of players are claiming this. In other words, they're now accusing the people who have started showing up to WNBA games for the first time in more than 2 decades of being horrible racists. So now for the fine print. None of these racial slurs we're told about, some of which have supposedly occurred during games, none of them, as far as I'm aware, have actually been caught on camera. Interesting. There's no visual or audio evidence that might substantiate any of this. Not a single credible report, even. That's extremely unusual, obviously, given that there are cameras and smartphones at every WNBA game. You'd think that if a mob of racists were buying up WNBA tickets so they could heckle the players with racial slurs, as is being claimed, then the videos would be all over the internet. But those videos are not all over the internet. They're not anywhere on the internet. So instead, we have to take the player's word for it. Here is Brittany Griner, for example. Listen.
How do you feel about what has happened over the past year with the W since you first came in to where it is now? And obviously the game has grown and there's new fans, but how do you appreciate the new fans without all the noise that's come with them?
I appreciate the new fans that sit there and yell racial slurs at myself, my teammates, and the people that I play against. Because those might be opponents, but those are friends too. They don't deserve that. So I don't appreciate the new fans. I think it's okay to do that. But I do appreciate the new fans that respect the game.
There's that woman, Brittany Griner again. The question that Brittany Griner was asked was about the massive growth of this league, which was dead in the water just a year ago and had been dead for its entire existence. And the reporter asked, what do you think of all the new fans? And in any other context, when someone says, what do you think of all the new fans that are coming in? Usually it's great. We love how everybody is supporting the league and we're so grateful. None of that. Instead of some gratitude, some appreciation for the people who have saved the WNBA, who pay to come out to see bad players like Brittany Griner, instead of that, we get resentment. Instead, we're told by Brittany Griner that the fans are racist. They buy tickets just so that they can yell racist things that are never captured on camera, because not only that, these racists happen to be magicians. They can shout racist things while also being completely invisible. And they can shout it at a frequency that Brittany Griner can hear, but nobody else can. They're like ghosts. They just appear in the stands and they shout the N-word a few times and then they disappear. Now, put aside the fact that Griner is obviously lying. Let's say hypothetically that someone did shout a slur at a WNBA game and it really bothered people like Brittany Griner. Nothing about the answer makes sense, even in that context. I mean, why would that be the first thing that Griner mentions when the reporter asks about the fans? Why not say, well, the overwhelming majority of the fans are great people. I'm so happy that they're paying money and I'm so grateful to have them. Why wouldn't you, even if this was happening, why wouldn't you start with that? If anyone should be striking a note of gratitude, it is Brittany Griner. Less than 2 years ago, the Biden administration traded away a Russian arms dealer, someone who conspired to murder American citizens in order to get that person out of a Russian prison. So Griner has every reason to be extremely grateful to this country, not just because of the paycheck for playing basketball poorly, but also because the United States is a lot nicer than a Siberian gulag, I would think. At the very least, you'd expect that Griner would be, happier than the usual WNBA player. But that's obviously not the case. Now, of course, the media, especially the sports media, is uncritically reporting on this phantom crisis of racists at WNBA games. Just search WNBA racism in Google. You'll get dozens and dozens of mainstream media articles frantically shouting about the racism crisis in the WNBA. And many other players have raised the alarm about this invented epidemic. Here's just another one. Watch this.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly.
Now, in response to those comments, the WNBA issued a statement saying the WNBA is a competitive league with some of the most elite athletes in the world. While we welcome a growing fan base, the WNBA will not tolerate racist, derogatory, or threatening comments made about players, teams, and anyone affiliated with the league. League security is actively monitoring threat-related activity and will work directly with teams and arenas to take appropriate measures to include involving law enforcement as necessary.
Hear the kind of dramatic, sad music in the background. This is really serious stuff. Law enforcement might have to get involved. WNBA games have become like Klan rallies, from what we're told. You're not going to see any of that on video or hear any of it, but just take their word for it. Take the WNBA's word for it. Take the media's word for it. Yet some WNBA players are still upset that the media isn't making an even bigger deal out of the fake racism scandal. Reading from the USA Today, quote, Chicago Sky rookie Angel Reese says the media should have done more to combat the ongoing issue of racism in women's basketball before it reached a boiling point. The WNBA on Wednesday condemned all racist, derogatory, threatening comments that have been directed towards players after Connecticut's Sun All-Star Alyssa Thomas called out racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base following the Sun's series-clinching 87-81 victory over the Fever. Reese said this has been a long-standing issue, noting that she's been the subject of racially motivated hate for some time. Reese, however, said her pleas for accountability and action have been repeatedly ignored. Quote, the media has benefited from my pain and me being villainized to create a narrative, she wrote on X. They allowed this. This was beneficial to them. Y'all a little late to the party and could have tried to put out this fire way before it started. Yes, it's a fire. A fire is raging, a fire of hate. You're not going to see any of the fire. You can't see it, but it's there. Trust Angel Reese on this one. This shaming obviously had the desired effect on some in the media, which is what led to this line of questioning. Listen.
Melissa, how did you personally deal with the hate, the racism, the attention, scrutiny, and then also just navigate that to go out there and hoop?
I feel like I'm the type of person where I just be putting like a lot of stuff to the side and try to keep like the main thing. So I don't be trying to get too like deep into like the other side of things, because I know at the end of the day I'm just, I'm here to play basketball, and it's also like, there's only so much you could say when you're here.
Well said. Very eloquent. Very eloquent. These are eloquent, really intelligent people. Great people. The best of the best. He says, Nalyssa, is that actually her name? N-A-L-Y-Y-S-A. Is that how you spell her name? Capital N-A, capital L-Y-Y-S-A. Is that actually how you pronounce it? Is that how you spell it, really? That's not how you spell that name, but maybe that's how she spells it. Anyway, how did you personally deal with the hate, the racism, the attention, the scrutiny, is what we just heard is the question there. If you listen to these press conferences, you think that skinheads are like rushing the court and assaulting the players in the middle of the games. At the very least, you'd expect that this player would have been subjected to some kind of horrible racist chant or something from one of the WNBA's racist ghost fans. But here's what actually happened. Nalyssa has a girlfriend named Dejounai, D-I-J-O-N-A-I, Dejounai Carrington, who also plays in the WNBA. And recently, Carrington nearly took Caitlin Clark's eye out on the court just a few minutes into the game. This is one of the many flagrant fouls against Clark that have occurred since she started in the league. And this one wasn't even called, but here it is. Watch.
Harassed by Carrington. Finds Boston. Clark gets hit in the face by Carrington and is down. Caitlin Clark is down. No call as Connecticut takes advantage. And Clark is still down after taking a shot following the pass to Boston. Clark in pain after she caught that fingertip in the eye or right around it from Carrington with no whistle. Now, there's nothing Indiana can challenge here because no call on the floor was made. Clearly not on purpose from Carrington, but also enough contact that it certainly could have been a personal foul.
By the way, I looked it up. Nalyssa. That's how she spells her name. Melissa. It's not as bad as two Y's, but still, like, that's not how you would spell that name. You don't need the Y. It should be an I. Don't put Y's in your name for no reason. That's a whole other thing. We could talk about that some other time. Now, after this foul, as you'd expect, there were a lot of angry fans on social media. To a lot of people, it looked intentional. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that was the conversation. So in response, a USA Today reporter named Christine Brennan did what any reasonable sports journalist would do. She asked Carrington if the hit was intentional, because that's what everybody was talking about and wondering about. Let's watch.
Desjardins? Yeah. Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her. So I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
So these are obviously reasonable questions from Christine Brennan, the reporter there. They're not racist. It's not offensive. It's the bare minimum you'd expect under the circumstances. It's the kind of questions that reporters ask male athletes all the time. When there's a foul, when there's a scuffle, it's the same kind of questions. But Carrington immediately gets snippy and obnoxious in response. And then just for asking these questions, Brennan, who incidentally is one of the biggest champions of women's sports in the industry, is now getting dogpiled. In particular, the WNBA Players Association just put out one of the most demented statements imaginable. They wrote, quote, "We call BS to unprofessional members of the media like Christine Brennan. You are not fooling anyone. That so-called interview in the name of journalism was a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. You cannot hide behind your tenure." The statement then said Brennan was guilty of abusing her privileges and charged that she does not deserve her credentials. It continues, quote, "We call on USA Today Network to review its principles of ethical conduct for newsrooms and address what we believe is a violation of several core principles, including seeking and reporting the truth. USA Today Sports should explain why a reporter with clear bias and ulterior motives was assigned to cover the league. We also urge the league to review its policies and take measures to prevent such issues, protecting the integrity of the game and its players." So we're at the point now that journalists can't even ask black players about fouls they commit against Caitlin Clark without being accused of racism and somehow also homophobia for asking the question. That's how much racism there is in the WNBA. Even asking questions is now racist, which I guess we already knew. Now, obviously, there's no reason to take any of these people seriously, but just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, I went looking to see if I could find the most egregious examples of racism in the WNBA. And I came across this monologue from a sports commentator named Nick Wright. So a couple of days ago, and it's about as unhinged as you'd expect. Watch.
And none of that is the story for me right now, because this mediocre, unimpressive, grown woman decided she was going to wear this outfit looking like this to a basketball game. And if you can't see, it says ban nails. And she has long, fake nails on her fingers, mocking Dejanay Carrington. Dejanay Carrington, who plays for the Connecticut Sun, who was interrogated all week because when she swiped for the ball, she hit Caitlin Clark in the eye. Forget the fact that Caitlin knew it was unintentional. Everyone watching seemed to think it was unintentional. The internet decided maybe it was intentional, and it became the story. And if you sense anger in my voice, it's because it's there. Because race in this country is a rubber band, y'all. And when one side stretches, the other side gets a little more tense. And then when one side snaps back, the other side feels the reaction to it. And fortunately, by some miracle, our country's racial rubber band hasn't actually fully snapped in 160 years.
Oh, so profound, Nick. This is the worst thing about these controversies in sports, is that we have to hear these morons giving their social commentary. Dear God, shut up. You talk about people playing a game for a living. That's what you do. And hey, nothing wrong with that. I watch a lot of sports commentary. Nothing wrong with it. But that's what you do. Okay, you don't know. You know about people playing games. You don't know anything. Just stay in your lane, buddy. So his grand example proving that the WNBA is racist is that a woman mocked the player who gave Caitlin Clark a black eye with her nails. Apparently that's racist. It's racist to say we should ban nails. Means you don't have the long, fake nails while you're playing. And apparently it's racist. It's racist to take that position. That's why this podcast host is invoking the Civil War, because someone said you shouldn't have long nails when you're playing in basketball. Mockery of WNBA players is a threat to the entire country, apparently. At least if those WNBA players are black. If they're white, you can mock them all you want. You can assault them on the court, in fact. Which, by the way, of course you should ban long fake nails in basketball. I can't believe that hasn't already happened. Why would you be wearing long fake nails when you're playing basketball? People get poked in the eye all the time. You're going to literally take someone's eye out. That's not just mockery. That's like a really obvious thing. I can't believe that's not already against the rule. Like, of all the safety precautions, you let people walk around with like these long, blades sticking off of their fingers. It's like you're playing basketball against Wolverine. Anyway, that monologue continues, and he's complaining, and he tries to give other examples of racism. So what this fake outrage tells you is that racism isn't really what they're upset about. This is just too manufactured and overblown to take seriously. They're reaching to a degree that's comical and delusional at the same time. This scandal has been invented out of whole cloth by WNBA players for one reason and one reason only. They are racked with envy and resentment that the most popular player in the league is white. I mean, what they're really claiming is that Caitlin Clark, by bringing a bunch of white fans to the league, has naturally also brought racism. Basically, they're complaining that too many white people are watching women's basketball now. And for her part, Caitlin Clark has basically gone along with this narrative, by the way. She made a statement denouncing all of the made-up racism, predictable. Now, the racial hysteria reminds me of the summer of 2020 just playing out on a much, much, much smaller stage. A white woman playing basketball has become the WNBA's George Floyd moment, basically. And just like we saw with the George Floyd situation, before long, people start to push back. No normal person wants to pay money to support a team only to be told that they're racist and horrible for doing it. It's a big part of why the DEI grift has begun to collapse. And it's why the WNBA's brief resurgence isn't going to last very long either. Very soon, the league will be back on the path to irrelevance and bankruptcy. It's clear that, none of these players or executives or sports journalists really want the league to succeed anyway. To borrow an adage from the world of sports commentary, you might even say that the WNBA is like a rubber band, one that's been stretched to the limit by pathological narcissists who only know how to complain and demean their own fans on the basis of their skin color. And one deranged sports podcast and self-pitying press conference at a time, that rubber band is about to break. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. You didn't vote for this recession, but you sure as heck pay for it at the pump, at the grocery store, and with that growing stack of unpaid bills. If you're one of millions of Americans being crushed with financial stress right now, the solution is donewithdebt.com. Unlike some of the other guys, Done With Debt has created new aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done With Debt stands between you and the bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest, and stop penalties. They have a plan to put more money in your pocket month 1 and every month until your debt is gone. And the best news is that Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now. But you need to hurry because some of their debt strategies are time sensitive and you don't want to miss out. Let Done With Debt hit the debt reset button for you and make your money yours again. But again, this is time sensitive, so you need to visit donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 right now. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Okay, we'll start with this, and I'll have more on this tomorrow, sort of putting my thoughts together to do a longer monologue. But for now, here's the latest from Fox on the devastation wrought by Hurricane Helene. Says at least 99 people have died from Hurricane Helene. Fox weather correspondent Robert Ray reports the latest on the devastation. One Asheville, North Carolina resident sounded the alarm as his community battles the devastation left by Hurricane Helene, detailing the apocalyptic weekend as the death toll continues to rise while millions are left without power and water. Officials in Asheville are still trying to rescue residents who have been trapped by the historic flooding over the weekend, which has left many without access to power, running water, and cell service. As of Monday morning, the North Carolina National Guard activated more than 500 soldiers and airmen and more than 200 vehicles and aircraft, including emergency aviation assets as well as high water response vehicles. The NCNG reported that it completed 16 air missions, resulting in the rescue of 119 citizens and 11 pets. Said the largest single mission saw the rescue of 41 people. But many are still trapped, and they're saying the death toll officially is at 99, but it's rising by the day. So a total catastrophe. I mean, you've probably seen some of the images on, on social media at least. Western North Carolina, in particular, has been wiped out. Truly like biblical devastation in a very beautiful part of the country too. We've been out to Asheville, my wife and I, in our family several times. My wife and I spent our anniversary there a couple of years ago. We love the area. And to see it washed away by a hurricane it's awful. It's also just bizarre. It's like kind of mind-boggling. Because when you're in the mountains of North Carolina, you're not really worried about hurricanes. I mean, it's not like living on the coast. It's not like you're living, in Tampa or something. Out in southern Appalachia, you just aren't thinking about hurricanes, which is why when people say, well, why didn't they evacuate? Well, I think that's a much fairer question for, coastal Florida communities that get hit by hurricanes every year. And, you know how it goes. You've seen it before. And so that question always arises when you've got people in those communities who stay behind and then they get trapped. But out in Asheville, it's just not, it's not on your radar. You're not thinking about hurricanes. So the most important thing is to get these people the help they need. And if you want to donate, my wife and I will be donating as well. If you want to donate, I posted a link on my Twitter of an article that lists a bunch of organizations that are helping the victims. And I'll put that link in the description on YouTube as well. I'll pin it on Twitter so you can find it. And of course, before you give money to any organization, you should vet the organization, make sure the money is going to go to the people that need it. But this list is a good place to start, I think. Meanwhile, and like I said, I'll have more to say about this tomorrow, but it's very noticeable that this disaster it's a disaster unlike anything we've seen in many years in this country. But it's not getting the kind of media coverage that it should be getting. I mean, yes, the media is covering it. They are covering it. They have to. They can't not cover it at all. But Well, I'll put it this way. It's not getting Hurricane Katrina levels of coverage. Even though it is a Hurricane Katrina level disaster. So that's very conspicuous. And what's the reason for that? Well, the reason's obvious. That this happened under a Democrat administration during an election. And so there's really nothing in it for the media politically to make too big a deal out of this. Which is why you'll also notice that all of the people who blamed Bush for Katrina are now insisting that the Biden administration cannot be at all blamed for Helene. In fact, they're indignant if you even suggest that the response from the federal government has been less than sufficient. If you even try to connect the dots between the president, the administration, Kamala Harris, and this disaster in North Carolina, what you get from the left is they're how dare you politicize this disaster. And this, again, is coming from all the same people. You just go back. If you're old enough to remember Hurricane Katrina, it wasn't all that long ago. The same people who, that was weeks and weeks and weeks of doing everything they can to pin it on Bush. And now Obama, of course, or rather Biden, all the same. Biden it's got nothing to do with it. Can't blame him. So these people are just, obviously they have no integrity, no shame at all. In fact, some people have pointed out, and there was a tweet, if I can find it. You probably remember the one enduring image from Hurricane Katrina, which isn't actually an image of Hurricane Katrina, but it's the image of Bush flying over the aftermath of the hurricane in Air Force One, looking out the window. And this is supposed to be one of the most infamous photographs of all time because it shows that Bush is detached and he doesn't care, and he's up in the airplane looking out. Now that whole thing, the outrage over that photograph is totally contrived, obviously. Like he's there surveying the damage. What do you want him to do? You want him to rappel down into the middle of the floodwaters as the president? You want him on a boat, like actively rescuing people? Of course not. And if he had shown up to do that, that would be a scandal of its own, because now you're taking all these resources, because he's the president, we got to protect him, and because you're taking these resources for a photo op. So he did the right thing, which was, I want to see what's happening, I want to see it with my own eyes, but I don't want to go down there in the middle of that and be a huge distraction. But we know how the media responded, we know how the left responded to that. And now, and this is a Charlie Spearing, reporter for the Daily Mail who made this connection. There's a photograph of Kamala Harris it's almost exactly the same thing. It is her on her plane. The window's closed, though, so she's not looking out the window. On her plane, looking at pieces of paper that, by the way, appear to be blank. Looking at blank pieces of paper, and then there's a caption about how she's doing everything she can for the victims of Hurricane Helene. Same thing. It's also, that picture from George Bush, 3 days after Hurricane Katrina, that picture, big scandal. 3 days after Hurricane Helene, Kamala Harris also in her plane, flying, but this time she's looking at a piece of paper. So she didn't even go. Like, she's not even flying overhead. She's off wherever else. So this should be the same scandal. It should be the same level of mockery and everything else and outrage because of this picture. But, of course, there won't be, because these people, again, have no integrity and no moral standards whatsoever, and no shame. All right. Post-Millennial has this report. The youngest voting age group between the ages of 18 and 24, including those who will be getting the opportunity to vote for the first time, are identifying as more conservative than liberal, according to a new Harvard Youth poll. This is a shift from the slightly older group of voters between 25 and 29. The poll found that among American men between the ages of 18 to 24, 26% identify themselves as conservative, while only 22% identify as liberal. This number is 5% higher than men between the ages of 25 to 29, where only 21% identify as conservative. This conservative shift is also seen among women, with those aged 18 to 24 being 3% more conservative than women aged 25 to 29. So these are mostly encouraging results, but it's probably oversimplifying to say that they are just encouraging, because I think that when you look at the trends in the younger generations, trending more conservative, as it says, than most people expect, I think there are a few different things going on here to produce these results. And together, all of the contributing factors are creating a situation that's probably unique in American history and world history. Because on the one hand, the traditional religious faith is trending downward, like hard. It's a hard, severe downward trend. Church attendance is falling off a cliff. And that's why you see, and it says this in the same poll, that although they're trending more conservative politically, they still, Kamala Harris still wins the younger generations on issues like abortion. So that's the dynamic. And I think this kind of explains it. Kamala wins on that issue. She wins because as people lose faith, as they lose their religious grounding, they begin to see human life as more and more meaningless. They view life in an increasingly materialistic, utilitarian way, which helps the Democrats. It helps the left. It helps them win on issues like abortion, because when it comes down to it, the pro-life message will not resonate with you if you don't see life as sacred. If life itself has no meaning, then to be pro-life has no meaning. So this is the very deep, very profound philosophical challenge that the pro-life movement is grappling with, or maybe failing to grapple with, perhaps. But on the other hand, the younger generation is growing up in a country largely shaped by left-wing ideas and policies. So young people are seeing the results of those policies. They can see that the results are abysmal. They're experiencing that. They see that it isn't making their lives any better. On top of that, all of the authority figures in their lives are liberals. Most of them anyway, teachers, administrators, when they get out into the working world, management, HR departments, all of that is liberal. The man is liberal. And so the youthful instinct to rebel, the youthful male instinct especially, drives them away from liberalism. Liberalism isn't cool. It's not rebellious. How could it be? It's not cool or rebellious to say the same stuff that your guidance counselor or your HR manager says, because liberalism is the establishment. So I think this is the tension. What happens when you have a basically godless generation, not raised with any kind of faith, that nonetheless sees the results of liberalism and wants to rebel against it? Well, you end up with something like we have now, where with the younger generations, the left is winning on something like abortion pretty handily. But then on the other hand, politically, the trends are going the opposite direction, and so it's all kind of confused. I also wanted to talk about this briefly. This is from the interview that Kamala did with MSNBC last week. We talked about the interview. It wasn't really an interview at all. MSNBC is not interested in interviewing Kamala. We know that. Not asking real questions. So there's not a lot to say about it. But I did want to make a point about something that we didn't touch on last week, that she said when she was asked about her economic plan, which is basically non-existent. And because it's non-existent, she gave her standard stump speech with the familiar talking points about paying your fair share, she says. And we've heard this from her a million times, but this is just the latest. Let's watch that.
Expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success. but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
So, pay your fair share. Like I said, we've heard this a million times. And it's always I get annoyed when I hear the pay your fair share stuff. And this is Democrat politicians, of course, they're always saying this. And you can't help but get annoyed by it if you have, like I have, if you've experienced kind of the spectrum of income levels. If you've gone from nearly poverty level wages to being in, a high tax bracket, and you've had stops all along the way, when you have that experience, you start to get an idea of what fairness looks like, fairness. And it is, it doesn't seem very fair. Because fairness, when you hear from Kamala Harris, the kind of fairness that is baked into the system right now and that she wants to, create more of, it means that you're punished for climbing your way to the top. It's a punitive. It's like you're actively, the more, you start at the bottom, and this is supposed to be like this American dream, right? You're supposed to climb the ladder. And if you do that, you start to see that like for every rung you manage to scratch and claw your way up to, you're punished for it. It's like a punitive thing. It's the system basically saying like, no, you're not supposed to do this. This is, you want to go from there to there? Well, here you go. Here's what you get for that, you jerk. And then when you get to close to the top, you're looking at a situation where the federal government takes 40% of your income. 40 damned percent. And that's just the start. I mean, that's not even getting into property taxes and state income taxes and so on. So there are some people in some parts of the country that are paying like 60%. And it's crazy. It's just insane. So here's how it works. This is fairness, we're told. The top 1% of income earners pay almost 50% of all of the federal income taxes. 1% pays 50%. The top 10% pays 75%. The bottom 50% pays 2%, and the bottom 40% pays 0, pays nothing. So in fair, this is how we achieve fairness. And how in God's name do you make it more fair by making the people who already pay for almost everything pay for more? Like, what definition of fairness are we using here? And again, I say this as someone who for a long time was in the paying 0 group. Now I'm in the group that pays 50%. And I've never experienced fairness the whole time. I didn't see where's the fairness? I don't know what are you talking about? Especially because when I was paying no income tax, I had no kids. I was a single man. I had no dependents, no kids. I had very little skin in the game, just kind of living on my own. And now I have 6, and the government comes in and takes 40%. 6 kids, that is. Fair? But Kamala says that we make it more fair by, again, forcing the people who already pay basically everything to pay even more. You make it more fair by penalizing success even more than we already do. And meanwhile, you've got these like brain dead liberals running around. I'm talking about the ones who, not the ones in charge, but the people, the supporters, the Kamala Harris supporter types, who they'll look you in the eye with a straight face and they'll tell you that like rich people don't pay anything. They don't pay any taxes. Well, they get away, they don't pay any taxes. Like, what are you talking about? They pay almost everything. Not only do they pay something, but like everything almost. What in the world are you babbling about? This is what Kamala Harris is able to take advantage of, is you got people who have no clue how our tax system actually works. Totally oblivious. And they will look you in the eye and they will tell you that the top 1%, they don't pay anything. They need to start paying more. What do you mean they don't pay it? They pay. How much more money do you really think the federal government should start taking? Like 40%? That's a lot. That is a lot of someone's income to just come and take. What do you want them to take? What, 70%, 80%? And of course, Kamala Harris supporters will probably say, yeah, it should be that. You can afford it. Okay, so let's just go in and take the most successful people and just bankrupt them. It's just completely bankrupt them. Give people zero incentive for trying to succeed or climbing the ladder. Take away all the incentives. That's a great way to prosperity, isn't it? That's how you make your country prosperous. That's how you make it flourish. But these people are just clueless. They don't know how the world works. They don't know how the country works. They don't know how the tax system works. They don't know. And that's how Kamala Harris, that's Kamala Harris's bread and butter, are those kinds of people who are utterly, totally clueless. Are you still struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns? The IRS is escalating collections by adding 20,000 new agents and sending millions of demand letters. Handling this alone could be a huge mistake and cost you thousands of dollars. In these challenging times, your best offense is with Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved clients millions in back taxes, regardless of the size of your tax issue. Their expertise is your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities such as garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, or if you're missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all of your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then they'll create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and now that tax season is over, collection season has begun. Tax Network USA can even help with state tax issues. For a complimentary consultation, call today at 1-800-958-1000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Walsh. That's 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Walsh today. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. The 2024 vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz is coming to Daily Wire Plus tomorrow night, but let's face it, these debates are better with friends, especially friends who can spot every lie and false promise. That's why we're doing a special backstage with pre-show analysis from Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, Jeremy Boring, and I'm also allowed to be there as well. Very excited. Plus, stick around for a post-debate breakdown with insights you won't hear from the mainstream media. So instead of yelling at your TV alone, come yell with us. The vice presidential debate tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern, Daily Wire Plus. Can't wait to see you there. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. As the left becomes progressively more bizarre and detached from reality and common sense, it tends to look with increasing alarm and suspicion at things that are normal. It scratches its head in confusion, trying to understand why normal people do normal things. It becomes like some sort of alien species studying humanity from afar, struggling and failing to comprehend. This explains a recent article in Newsweek written by a reporter named Marnie Rose McFall. Her bio says she's based in London, but her reporting style suggests that she's based on Jupiter or something. Here's the headline. Quote, "How hot girls became the right's new obsession." Yes, Miss McFall has used her powers of perception to notice this new and curious trend where men are attracted to beautiful women. Now she's writing a lengthy analysis about it and consulting experts to better understand this weird, bizarre thing that's happening. Let's read on. It all began with Sydney Sweeney's cleavage. In March, the 27-year-old actress hosted Saturday Night Live for the first time wearing low-cut outfits during the start and close of the show, which featured a number of jokes about her physical appearance, including a sketch where she played a Hooters waitress. SNL cast member Bowen Yang revealed in a recent episode of the Fly on the Wall podcast that the Euphoria star was practically begging everybody to make body-related jokes. She came in and was like, "Please, everyone, make jokes about my boobs," he said. At the time, Sweeney's appearance sparked much discourse and was lauded by a number of right-wing commentators as the death of woke. More on that later. The actress has become a so-called conservative hot girl, a pinup for the modern-day right-wing movement as it attempts to expand the appeal of conservatism beyond the confines of its largely older white male base. Sweeney and other conservative hot girls don't necessarily have any tangible involvement with politics, though some have strong political affiliations, but they've been claimed by right-wing public figures as their own, whether they appear to like it or not. Now, when you think about the great opening sentences in the history of literature, you may recall iconic lines like, "Call me Ishmael," or "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." One of my favorites from Notes from the Underground, "I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man." Those are all powerful ways to begin a story, but none of them come close to the literary brilliance of the first line of this Newsweek article, which again says, "It all began with Sydney Sweeney's cleavage." Now, there's a hook that keeps the reader reading. So let's continue. The conservative hot girl isn't a particularly new phenomenon. Victoria Cann, an associate professor at the University of East Anglia in the UK, told Newsweek, "Women have been positioned through the lens of the masculinist imagery in conservative populist politics for a very long time. Sweeney appears to have kicked off the latest wave of conservative hot girls at a time when conventional beauty standards have been adopted as a purported antidote to wokeness. That word was initially associated with progressive movements, but has since been co-opted by conservative critics to mock what they perceive as excessive political correctness, virtue signaling, or a tendency to overemphasize identity politics. Amy Tatum of Bournemouth University told Newsweek that this focus on hot girls is a way for the right in the U.S. to fight back against perceptions of wokeness. Holding up women in a sexualized fashion could be a tactic to reinforce gender stereotypes around women's appearance. Does the conservative hot girl's rise symbolize a more liberal thinking about sexuality? Or is it the installation of women as objects for political gain? Definitely the latter. Catherine Rottenberg of Goldsmiths University of London said, "There is no liberal thinking about sexuality here. Patriarchy and populism go hand in hand." Hannah Yellen of Oxford Brookes University in England told Newsweek, "Policing women, their appearance, and their bodies is an integral mechanism of the American right." Well, that was predictable. The feminist journalist is initially mystified about this cutting-edge new trend of men liking attractive women, but she quickly determines that the whole thing must be a patriarchal conspiracy, because men don't actually like attractive women. This cannot be a natural predilection. It must be rather a nefarious mechanism that men use to control and, as the Oxford Brookes University professor says, police women. How are they policing women? In what way exactly does a man control or police women just by noticing that Sydney Sweeney is attractive? Well, that's never really explained, because it is, of course, and it's especially when you consider that men actually have very relaxed beauty standards, quote unquote, for women. So if women feel pressured to dress a certain way or partake in any particular fashion trend or, wear a lot of makeup or get plastic surgery or do anything elaborate or expensive to enhance their appearance, that pressure, if it exists at all, is coming from other women. Like 100% of the time, okay? So for example, just one minor personal example. A few weeks ago, we had the red carpet premiere for my new film, Am I Racist?, which is in theaters now. Get your tickets at amiracist.com. And my wife, as you might expect, was slightly stressed out about finding the perfect dress to wear for the occasion. Perfectly natural. Any wife would feel the same about attending a function like that. And as men, we tend to look with a certain kind of bemusement as our wives search frantically for the right outfit for the occasion, that's because, to me as the husband, I think my wife looks beautiful in anything she wears. If I was the one setting the beauty standard, there'd be nothing to stress over. All she has to do is look like herself, and I'll be impressed. She could grab a $30 dress off the rack at Walmart, and I would rate it a 10 out of 10 if she was wearing it, and I'd be totally sincere in doing that. But I'm not the one whose judgmental gaze, she has to worry about. It's other women. So the worst kept secret in the beauty standards discussion is that women are the ones who set unreasonable and sometimes unhealthy beauty standards for other women. It's not men doing that. Now, that's not to say that men find every woman beautiful, okay? That's not to say we don't have any standards. We find beautiful women beautiful. Some women have more average looks. Some women are, unfortunately, ugly. There's not much a nice dress or makeup or even plastic surgery can do to change any of that, really. A beautiful woman is beautiful in a cheap dress and little or no makeup. An ugly woman is probably still ugly in a nice, expensive dress and 40 pounds of makeup. In fact, she may even look worse. The only thing that a beautiful woman can do to look ugly in our eyes as men is overeat and become obese. And on the other end, an ugly woman might become beautiful by eating healthy and losing weight. And this is how beauty standards work for men. It's like they're pretty reasonable and certainly uncomplicated. Men are attracted to attractive women. There's nothing political about it. There's nothing manipulative about it. It is women, feminists specifically, who have not only created unreasonable beauty standards, but have politicized beauty standards. So the real problem for feminists like Marnie Rose McFall or the experts that she interviewed for her article, which, by the way, from what I could tell in that article, they're consulting the experts to find out why men are attracted to beautiful women. Not one man was consulted in that article. I mean, am I wrong? It's like every person that she talked to was a woman. She's trying to find out why men are doing a certain thing or why they're attracted. Didn't talk to a single man. Like, what does that tell you? It's like that's feminism exemplified right there. It's everything you need to know about feminism is in that article. Not only that the article exists and that they are mystified by the fact that men are attracted to women, but that she never even asked a man about it. So their real problem is not that men have beauty standards, but rather that we recognize beauty at all. And as we've covered many times on this show, the left hates beauty. It produces only ugliness, ugly art, ugly buildings, ugly people. There is a war on beauty in our culture, just as there is a war on truth and a war on goodness. Beauty is good and true, which is why it too must be abolished. And that is why they feign incredulity at men who appreciate beauty. And that is also why Newsweek and its anti-beauty writer and all the experts that she talked to are all today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
The stage is set. The stakes are sky high. Senator Vance, Governor Walz, face off. But who will land the knockout punch? Don't watch the debate alone. Experience it with the most trusted names in conservative media. Daily Wire Backstage brings you unfiltered commentary, biting wit, and expert analysis you won't get anywhere else. Join Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Andrew Clavin, and Jeremy Boring for a debate night you'll never forget. Daily Wire Backstage, tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, only on Daily Wire Plus.